am not free while any woman is unfree, even when her shackles are very different from my own. And I would go on to say any person. This is one of my favorite quotes from Audre Lorde. Hello, my name is Miranda, as Sarah said, and I'm from Oxfordshire in the UK. I have heritage from Scandinavia and the Mediterranean, Europe, the Middle East a little bit. And I grew up in Oxfordshire and went to a European school there. And I studied conflict resolution in Bradford. I've done many different things in my life, from working in pubs, running community cafes, teaching the violin, and I've been involved in lots of direct action to support people in food and housing poverty and homelessness, and to fight illegal deportations and to protect the environment. I'm the volunteer treasurer for Creators of Peace International, serving in my second 3-year term. Creators of Peace is a Swiss association based in Switzerland, and we're a program of Initiatives of Change International. Creators of Peace began in 1991 when the amazing, wonderful founding mother, Honorable Abdallah Mzekwa of Tanzania, who was a respected politician and champion of women's rights, in her inaugural speech, she said, "To create peace wherever we are, in our hearts, in our homes, in our workplaces, and in our communities. We all pretend that someone else is the stumbling block. Could that somebody be me?" So we work from the inside out and the outside in, wondering always, what is the narrative that I am sharing in the world? As a woman, as a leader, as a storyteller, what am I sharing when I come out into the world? How do my stories change the world for the better or for the worse? And what are some of the narratives I've been taught to perpetrate in the world? Are they violent? How can I change these narratives? Have I been taught to hate certain groups? As a white woman, how can I undo the underlying layers of white supremacy that we are all socialized into? These are some of the questions I have explored with the Creators of Peace program, and are also some of the topics that we're exploring with the UNESCO Collective Healing program at the moment, working on healing the wounds of slavery and colonialism. So the topic we have today is Act Now for a Peaceful World, under the overarching theme of Peace is Possible. At the start of our Creators of Peace program, we ask, what is peace anyway? In order to act now, together, for peace, we need to understand what each other mean when we say peace. Somebody I disagree with, what do we actually mean when we say peace to each other? We may have the same meaning, and that gives us a wonderful place to start from. But we may have a different meaning, and if we explore that, that also gives us useful information. Peace becomes possible when we learn to communicate our hopes and dreams for peace with each other. The wonderful Johan Galtung said, "By peace we mean the capacity to transform conflicts with empathy, without violence, and creatively, a never-ending process." I believe that peace in that sense must be intersectional and take into consideration structural violence as well as the personal change. Peace must include many things: safety, clean air, clean water, safe and nourishing food, safe shelter, time to rest, and also the possibility for joy. A real combination of safety and needs. The second topic in the Creators of Peace program is called Circles of Concern. And this is about understanding what we're all carrying in our hearts and on our shoulders. The topic invites us all to explore these concerns at the moment, in this moment, in my personal life, in my community, and in the world. At the moment, one of my deep concerns is for our global family. When I see friends in Syria, Ukraine, and Lebanon posting videos of bombs being dropped near their homes, hear of how cuts to aid are impacting friends in the DRC and Kenya, and watching the violence in Nepal and Qatar the last few days, and when I hear friends tell of losing countless family members and friends in Palestine, my heart breaks. And being deeply connected internationally is a huge joy. The empathy Galtung speaks of is all-encompassing. when you've shared deeply across borders with friends, when you've eaten together, laughed together, danced together, sung together. The world I want to see sees those kinds of interactions happening across borders, across boundaries, across religions, across the whole world. With Creators of Peace, we're very blessed to have a family of women and some men across around 43 countries. Another important topic in the Creators of Peace circle is the power of listening. I will now share a personal story of how this topic transformed me and helped to build peace in my life. So when I was 12, my parents separated, and my late father, had a nervous breakdown. He became very unpleasant to me and my sister, and I learned to phase him out, to not listen to him when he was speaking or shouting. And this was for self-preservation. Many years later, during a peace circle that I was co-facilitating, I had a powerful realization that I really wanted my father to listen to me. But in order for that to happen, I would need to relearn to listen to him. I had really learned to completely phase out anything he said. So it took time. I took practice. I really tried to listen to him. And I took time every time we met to really breathe and sit and just take the time. And around 3 years later, he turned around to me and said, "I think I've gotten better at listening." Now, we'd never discussed this at all, but it was true. And I will be forever grateful that we were able to build a good friendship before he passed away. In order for us to have peace between us, I had to change myself first. So I have a few questions to leave you with. Who is the one person you need to learn to listen to? Who is the one person in your life who you could start to build peace with? What do you need to do to start? I needed patience, courage, and a really good therapist. And what joy could it bring you if you do? So I want to close by sharing another quote that frames my activism. This is from Lila Watson and her community. "If you've come here to help me, you're wasting your time. But if you've come because your liberation is bound up with mine, then let us work together." So, what skills do you or I need to develop to work together? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Miranda. I'm very lucky to have been working with Miranda for the last 14 years. So, thank you. So my name is Elizabeth Laskar. I was born in Oxford, a little town in the UK. Some of you might know it by Oxford University. And I was brought up as a Christian. So my parents, or my family, came to the UK in the 50s and 60s and settled in the UK. At this point, people normally say to me, "How does Indian Christianity thing work?" There are a few Punjabi Christians around the world. Sadly, in some countries, they are persecuted, but I won't be talking about that today. I'm still learning about my ancestral history, having been brought up in Oxford and born and lived there. And I'm trying to join the dots, you could say. It's only a few years back, watching some history programs, that I learned that in 1947, during the partition of India, which I'm sure you're all aware of, that it was the largest mass migration of people the world has seen. 14 to 17 million people. That's a lot of people. It was brutal, and it was devastating. My family were witness to that, and sadly, that story still lives on today. I'm not going to be talking about that today. That's for another time. But I will say one thing that I continually bring myself back to root when I was taught as a child is, love thy neighbor as you love yourself. And that's my mantra. So I'd like to share a little bit part of my journey, which absolutely disrupted my peace. And this was a good 20-odd years ago. Do you remember join the dot books that you'd get as a kid, and you have little dots and they've got little numbers, and you join them up, and finally at the end of it, you've got it. That's the picture. You know what it's about. I feel like my life's a little bit like that. In 2004, I connected a lot of those dots, and it revealed a picture which changed my life forever. 3 significant things happened. A friend of mine who I trusted said to me, please produce an ethical fashion show in Oxford at the Oxford International Women's Festival. Blindly, I said yes, and I knew nothing about ethical fashion then. The same woman said to me, I want you to introduce you to this lady. She loves fashion, she loves justice, she loves human rights, she loves the environment. Fantastic. We are dear friends to this day. The third thing that happened is another friend of mine invited me to join something called the Skoll Forum at the Saïd Business School at Oxford University. Those 3 things culminated in something quite magnificent for me. I unlearned so much in that week, and learned so much. And it significantly shattered my peace. I was broken as a person. I was realizing that I was walking around blind to the fact that stories that surround him, I was part of the stories of devastation. My clothes were impacting people, they were impacting the environment, they were hurting children, they were hurting women. Why was it now that I was finding out these stories? I just couldn't believe it. Why hadn't nobody told me about this? I realized it was an eye-opening moment. I soon realized when I paused that I was part of the problem. At the lectures, it was the first time I'd learnt about people, profit, and planet. I could do business differently. It was the first time I was learning about cradle-to-cradle design thinking. Externalities. Why hadn't anybody told me about this before? I don't know. I was learning about business being done differently, with integrity and human rights attached to it, with values. I couldn't believe it. I was hearing impact stories that were really good. I suddenly found some hope. Life was never the same for me. I began to join more of the dots. I then realized I had penny power. My pennies had power from where I was standing. I learned how to listen more. I learned to ask questions. We're not very good at asking questions. It's the skill. I had a seismic shift in the way I acted and dealt with life. And my belly hurt. It was on fire. It was so painful, but I found my purpose, and that was important. I used that energy to help find an organization which actually amplified the stories of our clothes. We started to work with designers, fashion designers, and businesses to help them do systems change. But it was all so new. People would say to me, ethical fashion, ethnic fashion? I was like, no, not ethnic fashion, ethical fashion. It was very enlightening. So I soon moved away from that for various reasons. And then 14 years ago, stories captured my attention again. And that's where I found myself sitting in a room doing something called a peace circle. So I found myself in a room with 10 women, some religious, some had no religion. And I was asked to co-facilitate a space. And I just didn't know what that meant. Nobody's ever asked me to co-facilitate a space before. So I found myself, again, going through, like Miranda, asking questions about myself is, what is inner listening? What does peace feel like for me? What does all that mean? Nobody's asked me the basic question, what does quiet time mean? I don't know. But I found myself time to pause and be around a very supportive structure. I listened, and I turned my judgments into curiosity. You know, when you get that feeling in your belly, when you feel like I don't agree with that person, I changed them into questions. I became curious. And then I understood that I had more work to do on myself. I had inherited narratives that weren't good. I needed to do more work. So I encourage you all, if you can, join a peace circle. We work in 43 different countries, and we've got facilitators who would love to work with you. I'd like to finish with a couple of stories which I hope will strengthen hope for us all. Last year, we brought together mothers and wives of Ukrainian defenders together with South Sudanese women, and we brought them together and magic happened in that room. They listened to each other, they cried with each other, they danced with each other. You see, preparation is really important during war. And I can't say that to anybody because I have no lived experience of war, but it took a South Sudanese woman to turn around to a Ukrainian woman and say, prepare for peace times, it's going to come. In Syria, our sisters continued to invest in the narratives around common humanity. And now they're the ones that are on the front foot, bringing communities together. We've got many stories like that. Women in Kenya working with prisoners who have found hope. So I'm going to go back to the beginning of our story and my story. Real life stories shattered my peace, and that's where I found my purpose. I found a place to act. I realized I was the stumbling block. I found hope in my actions. I found peace in my actions. And that, for me, was the only real way to make durable change. And that's one of the reasons why I moved away from the fashion sector. I needed to go slightly deeper. So I leave you with a question and a quote. The Right Honourable Anna Abdullah Msekwa from Tanzania 34 years ago said, "Create peace wherever you are, in your hearts, in your homes, in your workplace, in your communities. We all pretend that stumbling block is somebody else, but could that stumbling block be me?" So thank you very much for listening to us, and we will be delighted to talk to you after this. Thank you.